teaching profession status is very, very shaky as well as well established.
Given a piece to follow, given an advice to follow, given a structure to follow.
We find that 50% of people who work in the private sector don't even have a contract.
Teacher does not have that kind of autonomy.
Restoring thinking as the centerpiece of the classroom.
How to make the teaching profession an aspirational one.
The diets are important for quality DLED and primary school teacher preparation. And I see that the pre-service teacher education preparation is also very important to the diet.
So welcome all to this podcast of Changemakers in Education. And today we have with us Professor Padma and Sarangapani from TIS. And her name needs no introduction. Welcome, Professor Padma, and we are delighted to have you here. And I think a podcast is a very small opportunity to, get a peep into the experience that you have in teacher education. And all of us know that we are contributing big time in teacher education. EdIndia is contributing there. And we would like to hear from you some guiding, principles of teacher education, and we would like to pick some, pearls from your wisdom so that we can, improve in our own pursuit. So, Professor Sarangapani, when I was preparing your introduction, it was very difficult because, so much of experience you have in teacher education. You have been in policy making. You have, you have been a part of designing the teacher education program with NCT. You have worked with UNESCO, and I did not know what to pick and what to leave. So, I would just give the glimpse of your own profile for the benefit of our viewers here. Professor Padma began her MSc Physics from IIT Madras, and then she completed her MPhil PhD education from University of Delhi. She has had a long track record of engaging deeply with design and reform of teacher preparation in India, and she was part of steering committee for National Curriculum Framework 2005, which all of us know that was a change maker in the field of education. She served in multiple key national and state level committees such as National Council of Teacher Education, and has advised both state and government and federal government of India on teacher education policy. But yes, her signature contribution was connecting learning initiatives, a program using ICT to improve secondary education and teacher professional development. Under her leadership, with, if I may call it, CLIX won the UNESCO King Hamad Prize for Excellence in Use of ICTs in Education in 2018, and the Open Education Resources Award in 2019. And her research interests are broad and yet deeply rooted in realities of schooling, teacher professional development, culture, and pedagogy. So that's what I said. It is like the CV is so heavy, but I could just pick certain parts of it. Which part of it do you think, ma'am, you hold closest to you and you feel that made the greatest impact in teacher education, your whole journey until now?
Oh, that's a tough question, I think. I will mention, in addition to some of the things you have mentioned, like working on the NCF 2005, which was very important in the education scape in India, as well as CLIX. I actually go back to the MA Education Elementary Program, which I led and the development of and brought to TISS way back in 2006. We launched that program. And I think through that program, we have contributed considerably to the preparation of professionals for the sector. So, yeah, I would add that to moments that have meant a lot to me.
Yeah. So, ma'am, with NEP coming in and with so much happening in teacher education, we are kind of, the whole education sector or the whole education field, we are kind of facing a lot of confusions right now. One of the major confusions is related to the ITEP program, and I wouldn't say confusion, though we have, guiding guidelines and everything in place, but it is difficult to understand the present and the future of ITEP. How is it materializing the vision of NEP? And how is it, how would it be possible to bring this program and push it, at scale? So these are certain, challenges that we see right now. through whatever vision we have, we would like you to, put light on this area.
So yes, I think the ITEP is a very important new structural change that the NEP has ushered in. I should say that this was the long-standing dream of many people who worked in education, that we can professionalize the sector by bringing in this four-year undergraduate program. You know, the way in which the four-year program revolutionized law, and it seems to be the mark of most professional education. So many people wanted such a program to come. In some ways, it is good. I think the BLEd, for example, showed that if we bring university credentialing to elementary education, then we actually improve both the quality of teacher preparation and we also fix some important structural gaps so that expertise in elementary education, which means primary, middle, early childhood education, can actually enter into the university space and we can have more research and, build a very strong, rigorous practice for elementary education through a four-year undergraduate program. So I would say that yes, in many ways, an undergraduate program enables, in the university space, will enable neglected areas of teacher education to get strengthened because they will find a place in the knowledge production work of the university. So I'm really looking forward to foundational stage early childhood education similarly benefiting from entry into the university. But at the same time, I should say that especially in countries like India, where the teaching profession status is very, very, you know, shaky as well established. I mean, there are many contradictions in the profession of teaching itself. And as a profession, it is growing in the private sector rather than in the government sector. So, given this situation, I feel that we must retain and strengthen diverse pathways into the profession rather than expecting the ITAP will be the main way in which teachers enter into the profession. This is what a lot of people in the policy space are saying, and I do respectfully disagree with this particular recommendation. I think one of India's strengths has been multiple pathways into the profession, and we should continue to retain this for the long term of the profession. The other fundamental confusion of the ITEP, and I've actually extensively advocated on this matter, is that it is proposing four different kinds of teachers for foundation, prep, middle, and high. And I think this is is not a good idea. I feel that the way the profession deployment takes place, career pathways of teachers, and just teacher preparation itself. I think broadly, if we have primary school teacher preparation and subject teacher preparation and a separate program for early childhood, I think we would serve the sector far better. And this is actually the main structure of teacher education world over. Ever since this ITEP fourth stage business came into the picture, I've been very systematically researching what other countries are doing. And I'm finding that by and large, it's really keeping early childhood separate because it does have very unique needs, which are over beyond, this way in which we think about teaching. Primary school generalist teachers, and then middle and secondary school subject teachers. I think we should broadly focus on this as the model and not the four-stage model. So, frankly, I'm a little apprehensive about a four-stage model and its impact on the future of the profession. Yeah.
Okay. Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much for your insight and gives a lot of clarity, and somewhere it increases the confusion also because it's thought provoking that yes, this is the way India should think about teacher education. Now, as you know, that our organization is majorly focusing towards empowering the diets, and we are working with SCRTs. Now here comes ITEP with this. The curriculum has also been launched, and here this DIETS are being declared a center of excellence, and DIETS are actually working towards empowering teachers, contributing to inclusive education. Where do we see DIETS going? Where are these courses going? The DLEDs and all. What is the future of these courses?
So I see it two ways. I see that diets are important for quality DLED and primary school teacher preparation. And I see that the primary school teacher, pre-service teacher education preparation is also very important to the diet. I have actually been working on diets as institutions at the district level for a long time. And I think they are much neglected but very important, academic piece. which the 1986 policy had ushered into the education space. And it's popular, to hear this narrative about how diets are dysfunctional. But research after research that I have conducted and also examined, I find that the one thing which works in diets is the pre-service teacher education.
Yeah.
Many things may not work, but the pre-service works. And two guesses why. I mean, the youth and the vibrancy of teaching, if all the faculty of the diet enjoy it. They just love going and teaching in the pre-service teacher education program. It gives them their own academic purpose and identity, and it reinforces that. The second thing is that the pre service program also hugely benefits because the diet is so close to the state reform process. So, in fact, the most contemporary discourses of teacher education enter into the pre service and the diet before they go anywhere else. So, I think the diet and the pre service and the diet is central to quality in primary teacher preparation. In fact, I recently had the opportunity of analyzing TET data from one state, and I found that students who come out of diets outperform the students from any other pre-service teacher education college. So I think we must retain pre-service teacher education in the diets. It's very, very important. And I think the focus on primary school teacher preparation is the central piece for quality transformation in India. So I would say somehow the policy view on the Center of Excellence should include pre-service teacher education fundamentally in the space of the diet. I think the DLED model can continue to exist. In my view, there is simply no need to make ITEP the model for everything. I think, as I was mentioning earlier, we need multiple pathways into the profession. And we should allow the DLED to continue. I think some diets which are close to government colleges may even pull off an ITEP. But I don't think there's any need for us to have one single program that functions everywhere. It's really quite unnecessary. In fact, we find that states have already innovated in the space of the diet. If you take some states like Punjab and UP, they're insisting that students who come for DLED preparation should have an undergraduate degree. So maybe we can, we will serve the sector by recognizing the multiplicity which already exists and enabling quality to be produced no matter how the program is run. So rather than standardize, we should aim at meeting standards. There are two different things, right?
Wonderful.
Meeting standards is much more important than standardizing. And I think that's the way we should think about it. And allow these diets to meet these local needs much more effectively. I feel when we promote the ITEP everywhere, we are doing, there are many things implicated in it. How much can you afford to invest? Can you afford 4 years of pre-service preparation? Who needs that subject preparation? Does a generalist primary teacher need a BSc in mathematics and or BA in English or Hindi or whatever language? Maybe completely unnecessary. So we should be able to think about the different stages and needs with diversity. And the single model is not adequate. I think it has its place and it will do its work, but it need not be the model which we advocate for every institutional space and pre-service especially.
Great, ma'am. It's so validating and motivating to hear from you. And it's like, the multiplicity that you talked about, which right now actually exists, actually might serve well for, our country, is something that I take from this conversation. Like, since we are dealing with the teacher education sector, now there's an NCF that has come up, NCF 23, and there's a B.Ed curriculum, teacher education curriculum that is being worked upon. Now, my struggle basically is I sometimes feel that this teacher education curriculum and naturally the syllabus has not been updated to the needs of NCF 23 that has been released. So how does this teacher who's right now in the teacher education college, how can we say that she's ready for the implementation of NCF, or manifesting the vision of NEP? So do you think it is still possible, or do you think we are kind of late in, upgrading the syllabus of teacher education, or what is it that we can do so that at least this batch, when it comes out, is able to manifest the vision of, NEP?
I think to expect a newly qualified teacher to manifest the vision of an NCF 2023 is asking for too much.
Okay.
Simply, in any circumstance. I feel what we should aim for is really enabling people to emerge from these programs with confidence, adaptive thinking, problem solving oriented. These kind of qualities we must, and optimism, that you will be willing to work with new models of teaching, new curricular areas, be able to learn on your own. I feel the program should really aim at developing these core competencies that teachers need, not necessarily an NCF 2023 ready person. And I'll say this for a number of reasons. One is that the experience of schooling through which these young people have gone, they are very different from the vision of what NCF 2023 expects. But let's not forget that that's going to be the core experience base from which these young teachers are going to be prepared. So the teacher education program has to work a lot on the autobiography of the person. It has to infuse a lot of subject knowledge competence. It has to enable teachers of primary stage to think like a stage of schooling which we most of us have forgotten. How we become literate, how we become numerate. So there are so many other tasks that I feel the pre-service teacher education program needs to, and it needs to expose people to how pedagogy can look, how a classroom can be. And then in the newly qualified teacher phase, there will be a lot of support that schools must give to their new teachers to enable them to really meet the expectations of a NCF 2023. In fact, in the course, as I was mentioning to you, after this ITEP kind of landed in the policy space, I've been doing a lot of intense international comparative research on pre-service teacher education models. And I was quite astounded to hear what the Chinese approach to the whole problem is. So they say that they're not very worried about the kind of program through which the teacher goes. The school head selects people whom she thinks will meet some requirements of the school, and then they invest a lot in the newly qualified teacher induction phase of 2 to 5 years, where other teachers in the school and this network of resource persons support a person to realize the vision of a new curriculum. So I think to expect that the pre-service will make people job ready is, I think, too much. And we should, in teacher education, begin to think a lot more about the newly qualified teacher phase of work.
So to put it, induction is more important. The induction that the teacher goes into the actual school system is more important than actually investing on the pre-service.
No, I'll say both are equally important.
Both are equally important.
Because the pre-service has to do a very different kind of work. It has to really work with the autobiography with which you come. It has to give you theories with which you can think. For example, the NCF 2023 builds on NCF 2005 and furthers this conception of constructivist teaching and learning, right? So teachers have to learn to think with these theories. They have to learn to think through the lens of the structure of knowledge. They have to begin to think about what does interdisciplinary teaching or learning look like. So these are all things that you have never experienced in your schooling. And the pre-service is when you get introduced to these ideas. You start learning how to think with them. And then you think about learners, you think about learner diversity, you think about inclusion. I mean, the list of things that we are hoping to achieve in pre-service is really humongously long. So I think we will have to keep some things for the induction phase and begin to think about how can we structure mentoring in the induction phase to enable people to grow into the curricular requirements that the education system is placing on them. The other thing that pre-service has to do is to build a strong professional identity for the person again, So you go with this into the school space. And then I think you begin to approach it with the kind of right mindset that will enable you to discover what it means to be a successful teacher.
That helps me think a lot about our contribution and how we can also, think of areas other than pre-service education, how to contribute and make teacher prepared for the profession after she has, really landed into the profession. And it seems quite overwhelming. So my next question was around the same thing that you mentioned, ma'am. The classrooms are going to be so diverse. They are still diverse, but now we are more aware of it. There is multilingualism. There's a concept of inclusive classroom. So how does the teacher curriculum or the preparation of teacher, so to say, I mean, the syllabus already has all these things, but how does the preparation, how can we contribute to the preparation in a way where the teacher actually is able to handle such a diverse classroom?
Yeah. I would say that handling a diverse classroom, there are no easy answers to how you do it. Because the nature of the diversity changes from context to context, right? But I feel that what teachers need to have is a sense of responsibility to every single learner in the classroom.
True.
And then I think the response to the diversity emerges from that kind of commitment you have towards every learner in your classroom. So I think that kind of commitment we have to build, and that awareness that what I do counts for every single learner in my class, and I have a responsibility to each of them. I think that we have to build. The other thing is that I do feel that teachers need structured time to think about every learner in their class. There needs to be structured time for reflection and planning. The requirement is to address and making your teaching more personalized, paying attention and knowing where every learner is or what every learner needs. I think that kind of structured time has to be built into the school timetable of the teacher. And it should be there as a planning process. And I feel the more the teacher is prompted to think about it, the more her responses in the class will reflect her ability to address diversity. And absolutely, I feel problem solving is the way to think about it. And that's one. The second is holding learners to high expectations. Right? You have to hold every learner to a higher expectation of each of them. And the teacher has to kind of develop that personalized attention giving to every learner in the classroom.
Okay. Yeah, sounds a lot of work, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading through your researches also, and there's a lot of work that you have done for MGML also, research paper has been around that. Could you tell us a little more about it?
MGML.
Yeah, it's like it's a holy grail. Yeah.
Yes, it's an important initiative to enable teachers to respond to the diversity in their classrooms. I think it has been implemented in several states in the country, and it has both its proponents and its detractors, people on both sides. I think the MGML definitely prompted teachers to pay attention to all their learners.
True.
Every solution that it offered may not be appropriate. For example, the whole idea that the children will teach each other, that seems to be inappropriate. But the idea that, you can in your own class with the same topic address diverse learners with different expectations from different groups, I think that thinking MGML,
at least like taking the cognizance of the fact that you have diverse learners in the classroom.
In the classroom, yeah. And that you can customize your teaching plan to address the diversity, provided you have the right kind of resources at your disposal. Right? So MGML draws our attention to the need for appropriate resources in the classroom. And I think, in that sense, it has contributed a lot of valuable thinking to large-scale systems of education, certainly. Yeah.
So, this is kind of question that keeps troubling us all the time, like how to make the teaching profession an aspirational one. All of us know that it's like usually the second choice with the people who join educational institutes or teacher educational institutes. So how do we make it aspirational? How do we give that autonomy and not exactly respect? Of course, the teachers are respected, but the kind of autonomy that other professions have, the teacher does not have that kind of autonomy. She's usually given a piece to follow, given a advice to follow, given a structure to follow. How can we actually either add that to? How can we actually build that aspect into the system So it is like something that may not happen, but at least if we start thinking about it, like how can we actually do that?
Yeah, I feel in India it's really, really complex how we're going to break out
Yeah.
of the situation in which we have trapped ourselves. Um, I mean, definitely, I think in the private school space, we have to start paying teachers much better, much, much better than we are doing right now.
Yeah.
Equivalent to the government school teacher pays scales, at least, I would say. The second is we have to stop thinking that we are overpaying government teachers. I mean, why shouldn't we pay what we pay to them? And why shouldn't we hold them to expectations we have of them and hold ourselves to expectations that teachers have from us as people who manage the education system?
Yeah.
I think it has to be that. And I feel that the profession is really caught. There's a deficit thinking about the profession. Unfortunately, many of us think that we can teach even without going for pre-service teacher education. So, by and large, in the system, very few people actually value what is learned in pre-service teacher education. Yeah, and there is the thinking that it's going to be the second profession of second choice.
Yeah.
But in fact, when you go into the DLED classrooms, when you go into BEd classrooms, for many people, you will find that it is the profession of first choice. It is. For rural men, it's the profession of first choice.
Yeah.
It's not the second choice profession. So then why are we thinking it's the second choice profession? It is not. For many people, it's not. So we have to start respecting it. That people have chosen to enter into the profession. They're coming with good academic records. If you go in and look at the academic records of students who come to diets, they're all very good. And why are they then coming into teaching? Yes, it is true. They're looking for early careers.
Okay.
They're looking for the security of government employment with good salaries. It is in a situation where we underpay teachers that the profession becomes second rate.
Okay.
Because the pay you get can at best be a second income. It can never be an income on which you run a family.
True.
So then you're really pushing the entire profession into a second rate profession situation by creating employment terms. I mean, we've studied now the working conditions of private school teachers. I think for the first time we have systematic study based on the PLFS data. And we find that 50% of people who work in the private sector don't even have a contract of employment. Can you imagine? It's an oral agreement. The way in which you employ domestic help or a shopkeeper floor, that's the way in which the private sector is employing its teachers. So we have allowed structurally a situation to come about when nobody in their right mind will want to enter into becoming that type of an employee. Right? So it's not that that type of employment has come up because so-called second-rate people are coming into the profession. On the contrary, we have pushed it. We have made it very difficult for people to decide to be teachers because when they look around them, they see that the employment prospects are very poor. I've actually been studying again in which context do these 4-year undergraduate programs thrive. They thrive in countries where almost all of teaching is in the government sector. They thrive in countries where there is virtually no pay difference between the primary and the secondary school teacher. It's in those countries that people can confidently decide at the end of +2, I want to be a teacher. It's a profession which will give me security and I will enjoy it. So when you have created a situation in which you cannot aspire for strong profession, secure profession, I think you create the kind of contradictions in which the profession finds itself and pre-service teacher finds itself. In fact, I've just completed a paper in which I have called Demand for Low Quality Pre-Service Teacher Education. There's a huge sector which wants only that low quality because it doesn't want to invest time, effort, resources, acquiring a degree when the profession will not even pay back what you invest in acquiring the degree. Just think of the contradictions in which young people are finding themselves. I think we have to really think about the employment situation before we address the question of, that's the only way in which we can meaningfully address the question of teaching status in the country.
That changes the whole perspective, ma'am. That was like quite, it's quite a thoughtful and insightful discussion that you have done right now. I mean, we never thought, at least I never thought from that perspective that actually they are coming with an aspiration, and then the conditions that we are providing them and the conditions that they thrive in as teachers are actually demotivating them. And hence it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Now the new aspirants who see the previous teachers or the teachers who are already in the system are kind of get demotivated to be in the profession. So at least I can say that we have created this situation. It is not that the students are not willing to become teachers. Thank you so much, ma'am. That was so insightful. Now, again, like interacting with so many DLED students and visiting DIETs and SCRTs, the usual perspective is that, the whole syllabus is too much around theory and there's less of practice, though internships and everything are part of the teacher education program, but there's less of practical and real life exposure to the students. So what can we do to impart this particular part of, teacher education and make it more interesting and something which the students would love to do?
Yeah, I think absolutely. When we have interviewed pre-service student teachers, and they feel that the entire business of becoming a teacher comes alive when they enter into the classroom and they have to interact with students. That's when everything begins to fall into place.
True.
So I think that experience is absolutely important. But when I worked with the BLED program in Delhi University, I realized that this thing called practical experience need not only be the business of when you stand in the classroom and you teach. There are many kinds of experiences which you have, in which you can be put into the classroom, but you don't have to be in the center stage of being the teacher.
Yeah.
For example, we started exposing pre-service the students to just doing craft with children. 2-3 of them would go into the class and just do craft with the kids in the school, and they would learn so much about being in the company of children and about how children think, talk, just by doing craft. So you may eventually be teaching maths or whatever it is, but you can start off by just doing craft or theater with the kids, right? And then we place them back in schools in which they just had to observe what is going on. They had to observe children on the playground. They had to observe children in the classroom in different situations and contexts. So you're vicariously thinking in the shoes of the student when you're placed, as an observer within the school. And then it was only through that they eventually began to start, actually teaching children, having the experience of shadowing a teacher, preparing lessons, and then going into actually taking responsibility for learning. I think that kind of practical experiences of being with children, with parents, the business of learning, we can do a lot more in our curriculum for this kind of development. And you're right. I think the more we do it, the more we will challenge our theory to speak to this kind of professional practice. So I think it will be on the whole very productive for the teacher education curriculum to introduce diversity even in this thing called practical experience. But I do think that one of the most critical drivers of good teaching is when the teacher feels responsible for the learning of the children. And so we have to be able to place a pre-service student in that situation of being responsible for somebody's learning. And therefore, we need to have this more long engagement in a classroom, spread over several months, where you can actually see the movement of learners from some point to another point, and then realize what it means to take that kind of responsibility for learning outcome. I think it's very much a part of the professional formation experiences that we should be able to provide.
Yes, that's quite true, ma'am, because as a teacher, when I was a teacher, so basically the progress of the child was something that motivated me. Like, maybe we were not paid that well. So those all factors were weaned out just because we could see this progress in maybe, 30 out of 40 children. Okay, so we have seen his growth, and that is what motivates me to do more, engage more into the classroom.
Absolutely.
That's quite true, ma'am. So, ma'am, with AI, the technology and everything paving its way and percolating into the classroom, I know we have no escape now. We have to learn to live with this percolation. How do you think the teachers can be more prepared for such classrooms and children who have been exposed a lot to, the interventions of or the seepage of AI into the classroom? We have no way to escape it. What would be your advice for the teachers?
I think that somehow when children begin to use AI early, I feel it seduces them into stopping to think.
Yeah.
It's very seductive that your thinking is now done by this device. And I feel if anything will retain our core humanity, it will be to continue to use the faculty of reason and thinking and feeling. So somewhere I feel that teachers need to think of how we can give children foundational experiences of enjoying thinking and reasoning on your own and using AI as a tool to support your thinking rather than giving up your thinking to AI. I think this is not going to be easy. I find that AI is right now quite addictive.
Yeah.
It's like sugar. Once you start putting it in your tea, you don't want to stop putting it. We'll have to cultivate a taste for drinking tea with less sugar. I think we have to cultivate our passion. I mean, eventually you start loving that tea. You stop wanting to add sugar to it, right? So we have to remind our neural networks the enjoyment of thinking by yourself, I think it's a really difficult phase. I feel because AI has just hit us, and right now it's just sucking us into a direction which is a bit ominous and not very productive right now. So I feel restoring thinking as the centerpiece of the classroom is going to be extremely important. And probably for that, we have to keep AI out and let AI in bit by bit. When we have to get ready for it. We have to trust our own thinking before we can trust our thinking with AI. I feel like we have to devise strategies like that. And I've been thinking probably the best way to do it. I mean, this is all just gyan that all of us are sitting around the table and speculating. But what I've been wanting to do is to actually run action research projects with teachers in a participatory way. Think about how we will introduce AI into your classrooms. And I think the more such stories, more such experiences we have of doing it ourselves, and the more stories we tell about how we used it, what worked and what didn't work, I feel that's how the professional knowledge around AI is going to grow. It's not just going to come by, thinking about it. We have to go out there and try it out.
Yeah. So again, like instead of discussing about AI, sitting in the boardrooms and all, we actually have to go down into the ground and prepare the teachers and give them the taste of, as you said, thinking. And
But we must do them as action research, I feel. We should set up these small projects in which we as researchers and teachers, we work together on introducing AI. And then we step back and think what worked and what happened when we did it. So we need to have these kind of conversations with teachers where we come up with an idea, we try it out together, and then we step back and reflect. And through this, we figure out what is worth doing. We meaning teachers and us, all of us together as educators and teachers. We simply don't have things to tell.
I take this as a homework, ma'am. I would really like to dive into it and do something and get back to you, with my thoughts on it and learn more from you. So, we've talked about AI, and we have, we are still training the teachers how to use it, and then we have to the next step would be how to use it wisely. Now, so many things coming in, so much support with teachers, and yet there is, challenge with multilingual classrooms, and as we discussed earlier, the MGML classrooms. So, how do we, prepare the teachers to handle the multilinguistic approach in education? I mean, there's a whole talk about it. There's a whole set of benefits around it. This everything is good, sounds good about it. But when you actually go into the DLED classrooms and when you interact with PhDs, when you interact with the faculties, they're still struggling with the thought of MLE.
See, I think we're all just kind of coming up with ideas and growing them in our minds.
Yeah.
I mean, are we out there doing an action research to figure it out? I think that's what DLED faculty and PhD students should do.
Yeah.
That should be the task. I mean, in the second year of their internship, the student, teacher, faculty, along with 5 students, we should all try out the same thing. And as a faculty, and all my 5 students are doing language pedagogy, we will try out a solution to MEL.
Mm.
We don't even have to do it alone. We can even pair up and do it in the classroom, right? Let's just do it and figure out. I feel when we have authentically tried it out, then when we speak from that experience, it's so much more substantial. Otherwise, these are just linguistic games that don't mean a thing.
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, nobody feels empowered.
True.
But when you go there and you do it, then when you speak with so much confidence about, having tried it.
I can hear that.
Yeah. I mean, you must go and see what are the languages actually spoken in the classroom that you're talking about multilingualism. Are these dialects of that region, or are these the languages of migrant children who are coming into my classroom?
Yeah.
We really have to get into the nuts and bolts and the nitty-gritties of it. And in that context, do something. And then when we speak from that experience, I feel it's enormously empowering. And I would strongly advocate that's what we should do. We should just set up these opportunities to do and reflect with this problem solving attitude. Maybe the aim of the multilingualism is I will get every child to feel confident to speak in my class in her own language. And when I hear those 5 different languages in my class, I know I've made my class multilingual. Right? So that's the project that the teacher sets out, or these 2 student teachers set out. And they work on that for 2 months to see how am I going to release the tongue of all these kids. Maybe they have to go home, find a story, and come back and tell it in their own language, and then help their other classmates to figure out what would that story mean. Maybe that's the thing. So we have to come up with ways in which, we achieve valuable objectives in the language classroom for multilingualism. I think we should have many more doing projects. I think the professional knowledge of teaching is in the doing of teaching, isn't it? We do and then we speak. And when we do, then the theory becomes so much more authentic. And the theory begins to speak to us only when we have done something with that theory. So these are all tools for doing, tools for thinking, not just talking.
Yes. There's so much of belief around the MLE, and that by using certain TLMs, by using certain chosen languages into the classroom, we would meet the expectation of MLE. So there's a lot of understanding that has to be built, and your insight into it is going to empower our teacher empowering modules or teacher interactions a lot, ma'am. How you explain Emily has to be explored is something very different and very fresh thought that I have gained right now. So now, we have talked about the teachers, how they should be, the pre-service. Now this NPST, which has laid down professional standards and the levels of the teachers and its expectations around them. And the first thing that has to be done is basically upgrading the teacher education curriculum according to NPST standards and all. What is this whole? I mean, right now I find it like it's a policy, it's a guideline, okay, but then there's a whole hullabaloo in the field regarding to its understanding. How and what is the future of NPST and how it would be more applicable into the teacher's professional journey when it comes into practice? Will it ever come into practice?
When I worked with the UNESCO Teacher Task Force on professional standards for teaching, there was a really interesting exercise on professional standards of teaching, which the Teacher Task Force at UNESCO was leading, and I had an opportunity to interact with several experts on the document. And through the thinking process, and it was beautifully articulated in one document actually, I got this insight that the professional standards themselves are not the end point, but rather it is the awareness that we need to meet standards. Yeah. That's more important than the standards themselves. So the awareness that I have to reach standards makes me do things with more care, with more rigor, with more attention, right? And this is what the professional standards should achieve. It's not about that rubric with which you go into the classroom and start marking the teachers. That's the most useless thing. Because the minute you start doing that, you convert the whole exercise into some high stakes things that everybody is out there to game. And it doesn't meet any. But when I become aware of the standards where I am, or if you're talking standards, then the need to do something about how I'm doing things, that enters into our way of thinking and being. We strive for excellence. So the discourse around standards is more important. Not the quibbling about this standard, that standard. Is this a competency? Is this a skill? At what level should we measure? How should we measure? I think that is really missing the getting into the detail and missing the larger picture of what are we trying to achieve when we signal professional standards. Right? It's about a practice. And actually, when you sit down and you try to make the standards and you realize how difficult it is, because this act of teaching is this holistic, synthetic act, and you're trying to break it up. And you're looking at this thing and that thing, and you're saying questioning and blackboard all separate. But actually, in the moment in the classroom, what you prioritize, why you choose not to ask questions, why you choose to do this, these are all in the moment, right?
In the moment, quite organic.
And they're very organically, and they are all knit into a larger aim that you're trying to achieve. You're not trying to check a box of a standard. You're trying to achieve an educational aim when you make these decisions in the classroom. So this pedagogical judgment and trying to map that onto standards, I feel, is a very, very complex thing. Still, I feel having the standards useful. Getting pre-service teacher, educator, students to go through the standards and see where I am. Why is the standard important? Why is the standard looking wrong? Why should it be somewhere else? That kind of critical engagement with standards will open the pre-service students' mind to so many things about the business of teaching. It's not about a self-evaluation and getting a score on it.
Yeah.
It's more thinking through the ideas that the standards offer. So I think keeping the discourse of standards alive is very important. Using it as a tool for reflection is very valuable. Even deciding that, yes, I went through the standards, but I find that my teaching doesn't map onto these standards. Even that is great achievement of the standards. So I would really want it to go down that way. I don't want the standards to become now a tool of managing teachers. It's only offering you one lens to think about how is my teaching, what can I improve, what do I need to work on. Right? It's one of the many tools that the teacher will have, which I think we should allow it to be used in that way. We shouldn't convert it into some kind of artificial management principle.
So the whole conversation, not only me, I think all the listeners here, it would be a really, change of perspective for most of us. Like the way we are looking at these guidelines and these documents, and the way you have actually given us a different perspective helps a lot, ma'am. So again, coming from the same, then there is a national mission for mentoring also, and how I understand is that there will be a group of mentors that will be identified, will be training the teachers, in-service teachers to become better teachers. They'll be contributing to the CPT. So what would be a better approach to this? Do we take only experienced teachers from the system already because it has been geographically identified, the group has been geographically identified, or do we try to give a diverse experience to the teachers from other fields, like other private partners? What would be a better approach to actually re-energize the whole teacher community?
Yeah. I think that, it's really interesting that you bring up this question of who other than the teacher is valuable in teacher professional growth and learning.
Yeah.
Right. Many years ago, when I worked in Chamarajanagar district and we were trying to develop approaches to strengthening quality of in-service teacher education, one of our maths collaborators, Gananath, pointed out that why are we restricting the trainers only to teachers of mathematics, senior teachers?
Yeah.
Why can't we bring in this person who's in the banking sector but is passionate about teaching and actually has good insight into the nature of mathematics? So they may not offer you ideas about the classroom, but they will give you ideas about the nature of the discipline, what is practical mathematics, how do I get an idea across, communication. So there are many things that this person who's not from the profession can contribute, which from within the profession I recognize as something valuable. Right? And I think that really kind of opened up. I also began to think of it like that we don't have to be it's a double-edged sword. We shouldn't be too rigid about who can and who cannot.
Yes.
But at the same time, it cannot be a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to come and train the teachers.
Yeah.
And the teachers have had it, right? Some handwriting expert has come and they'll teach you how to improve your handwriting and how to get the children to improve their handwriting.
Yeah.
I mean, there is just no dearth of people wanting to come in and train teachers. But at the same time, narrowing the business of teaching to only others who have been teachers is also limiting it. Because let's not forget, developing children in schools is about developing them for life.
True, true.
So everybody has lived experience, which is valuable for the young. So we all have some insight into growth, development, support, diversity. All of us have this natural insight that we want to give and we want to share. So I think it's kind of, as teachers, we have to remain open that our learning may come from anywhere. But on the other hand, we should not be so subservient that we think our only job is to listen to everybody and everybody will tell us what needs to be done. That's the situation in which the teaching profession finds itself. I feel there is need for some kind of professional judgment at some suitable level on how do we empanel people to become mentors. How do we recognize that this person is good and right for the profession?
Yeah.
And frankly, it is not easy because it's very easy to go into this moralizing trip with teachers. And the last thing the teacher wants that in the name of a mentor, I have somebody coming me and giving me gyan about how teaching is spiritual, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want that blah, blah. What do we want from a mentor as a teacher? I mean, when I think of what I have sought from people I have sought my mentor. I haven't had mentors given to me. So let's not forget that. We have to have a relationship of trust with the person who's going to mentor us. A mentor cannot claim out of authority that they will guide me.
Yeah.
The teacher has to trust the mentor and go and seek the mentoring. So this relationship, we cannot allocate mentors. The teacher has to find the mentor.
True, ma'am.
Yeah? And we have to build it through a relationship of trust where I feel that there is some development and change that is happening through it. And a lot of what the teacher wants is really incremental support. In fact, I find the idea of conversation the most important one.
Yeah.
We need to have conversations with somebody who understands and can nudge us. I don't want somebody to understand me so much that they say, okay, everything's fine. I know you're doing the best in your situation. Just keep doing. No. The whole idea of mentoring is incremental shift and change, right? So we have to find that balance and keep nudging the teacher to develop. And so that's really the kind of pathway that the mentoring mission should enable for teachers. I think it cannot just be done by decree. Yeah, it has to really be much more sensitively personalized ways, we have to enable it to happen. I don't want to be too, like we know how to do it kind of thing. And again, look at it. I mean, are we again placing teacher in this deficit mode that they need to be mentored?
Yeah, actually.
Are we going around saying scientists need to be mentored? Doctors? I mean, are we going around recommending mentoring for everybody, every profession?
Yes, it's lovely listening to you, ma'am. Lovely listening to you. So, what would be your word of advice for a teacher educator, ma'am, of today, right? So, what should she not do, rather?
What should she not do?
Yeah. Because there's already so much that, is advising her to do this and do this and do this more, right? And this is how you should go about it. But then what is it that she should not do to be, good in her profession, a teacher educator?
I don't think teacher educators should ever give up thinking for themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, and thinking on their own feet. Yeah,
Okay.
I think because even when we are able to, even if we disagree, we should challenge the ideas that we are being presented with. Not just nod. It was really interesting. Many years ago, this professor from NCRT studied teacher education colleges and institutions. And he said out of all higher education departments, teacher education was the most status quoist department he found. Everywhere else, higher education faculty were willing to ask questions, challenge ideas, think for themselves, not accept just what is given. But teacher education was highly conformist. I'm given, I'll do. I'm given, I'll do. So busy delivering the curriculum. Right? And that was really insightful that he got it like that. And I think we should not be status quoist. Our business is not to keep the show running as it is. We should really be able to hold up and aspire for how things should be, and to think with the tools that we have towards that. And I think, we should not forget that we are a part of higher education faculty.
Yeah.
We should. And what does it mean to be a member of higher education? That means you're in the business of knowledge. That means you're in the business of thinking through things. You're in the business of critical interrogation. Right? You're in that business. And I think teacher educators should not forget. That's one thing they should not forget, that they are faculty of higher education. I think that's really one strong message coming out of the NEP 2020, right? Teacher education belongs in higher education.
Yes.
Yeah. So we should begin to think much more about what does it mean to place professional formation in the space of higher education.
It's quite a powerful thought, ma'am. And we as Institute working into teacher education will definitely try to, spread across this message, rather this belief with the teacher educators and of course the teachers also. That's quite an insightful conversation that we had today, ma'am. And what would be that one thing that, teacher educators should put first, or teachers should put first? The policy, or their own perspective, or their own thinking, or their own experience? So just to, reframe my question well, because it comes through your conversations and I want to know more. I'm sure, I'm trying to make the best use of this time with you. If a policy says something and my classroom experience says the other thing, what should I give more importance to?
I think this issue has come up many times.
Yeah.
That, policy says something, but shouldn't I trust my own instinct?
Yeah.
But let's remember that the teacher is a person, of course. So, of course, we trust our personal experience, but we are professionals. So, what does it mean to be a professional reflecting on my personal experience?
Good.
That's really the point that we have to think about. And the professional experience is different from the personal experience. The professional experience lies in a community. It's not only held by the individual. We are professionals only because we belong in a professional community. So I feel if policy is saying something and you experience something else, you must find some other professionals, other teachers with whom you will discuss this contradiction. How is it that policy is saying this, but I'm experiencing this? Do you think there's something wrong with my experience, or is policy misguided? We need to have this conversation with other professionals and think with them on what does this contradiction mean. And if as a professional group we're convinced about the contradiction, that policy is somewhere misjudging something or not seeing the issue at the right level, our professional voice should be able to go back to policy. This is not me saying it, it's our professional judgment which is saying this to you. I'm not saying this just on my experience, but I've discussed it with other professionals. We've reflected on it, and still we feel that there is something misguided here. Right? I think that distinction we need to make between policy and the personal. We need to bring in the professional. In fact, when the NPST was being made, we had a lot of discussion on this idea of autonomy. And I remember members of the committee being very anxious about this thing called autonomy. I mean, if you give teachers autonomy, will it become free for all? I said, look, it's not free for all autonomy, which is personal autonomy, which I have as a citizen of India. I mean, we have a certain kind of freedoms given to us through the Constitution. But as a teacher, we're not talking about those freedoms. As a citizen, yes. But as a teacher, our autonomy is a professional autonomy, which means a profession provides us a reference within which our autonomous action acts. So it's not, I will do it because I think so. It's, I do it because this is the right thing in the profession to do. and therefore I do it. Right? So that kind of professional referencing needs to become a part of our thinking. We need to have access to professional experts whose voices we trust, with whom we feel we can have this, debate, an argument even sometimes, or at least find the reasons why policy is saying this, even if my experience is something else. We need to have access to such kinds of expertise. So I think if mentoring is able to give us access to this kind of expertise, great. We will enjoy those conversations.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's been wonderful interacting with you, and I think I'm going to run through the podcast again and again to make better sense of this conversation, because it's been so vast. It's been so much from so many years of experience that comes from you. Thank you so much for being with us, ma'am. Anything that my questions failed to prompt, or my own area of knowledge did not go beyond and prompt you for adding on to the teacher education area? Anything you would like to share?
No,